So many friendly faces here today. I'm Matt Haller. The only thing standing in the way of you guys at lunch, so rather than walk you guys through kind of a long presentation today, I wanted to give a little bit of a different presentation than the other folks here and talk a little bit about what Deb alluded to and IFA's kind of coming of age in terms of digital and social, where we see things today with some of the enhancements we've made, and where we see things going in the future with some plans that our board has tasked the staff and some task forces to embark upon. Dan Gibson is also here with me, and after I run through a few slides, I'll turn over to Dan. Again, my name is Matt Haller. I'm Vice President of Public Affairs for IFA. I've been with IFA for about 18 months now. Basically what that means is I oversee communications and public affairs for the association, sitting at kind of the intersection of our media relations and our government affairs objectives. Really what that means is my job is to put out information that helps IFA become a better and the go-to source for information about franchising, from the media, from the government, and from prospective franchisees that help you guys grow and help your franchisees be better franchisees or become better prospects. This includes overseeing publications that many of you are familiar with, increasingly in the digital space, our IFA Fran blog, our weekly IFA newsletter, Insider, our magazine, Franchising World, which is transitioning into more of an online publication, IFA Smart Brief, which many of you know Brooke, who's here today, which is a way for us to disseminate information about what our members are doing out there into the world. The intersection of association members and new technologies is definitely growing more complicated every day. In short, the possibilities for connections with existing IFA members outside of the IFA umbrella are increasing, and for the IFA to remain relevant, we as an association need to change as well. I think Deb's points about the IFA, not being at FranCamp in previous years and not embracing social and tech are an indication of that. These types of events are going to happen whether or not the IFA is involved or not. So that's one reason why we're here today. Fortunately, IFA, trade associations, and I've worked at 3 now, we're not different than others. They can tend to be bureaucratic in nature with their committee structures and boards and things like that. But fortunately, our board has recognized some of the shortcomings in certain areas, and we're taking steps to address them. We know that we need to provide new technologies, new communications vehicles that allow all of our members, all these individuals that interact with IFA in a manner that's valuable and relevant to them. According to the ASAE, which is the Association of Associations in Washington, there really is one for everything. A decade ago, only about 10% of trade association members' contact through your typical association was online. The rest came through conventions, magazines, things like that. Today, the proportion is more like 50% magazines and meetings and 50% web and obviously increasingly social media. And most experts would say in the decades to come, obviously it'll be upwards of 90%. So not to say that the publications and the content and the meetings are going the way of the dinosaur, but they're increasingly being replaced, and I would say, if today's any indication, clearly supplemented by social media, digital channels, allowing participants to engage, hello, Australia, and view online, Ustream, live tweeting, things like that. Last year, IFA, our communications team, took a member survey. How were you receiving information? How did you want to continue receiving information going forward? And we actually found that favorability of our publications that existed was still very high. So what that told us is, the content people really thought was valuable. But speaking to some of Todd's points earlier, if you build good content in these new channels, they will come and you will see good results from that. So 2 years ago, we didn't have a robust weekly newsletter of information that we could send out electronically to our membership. Kind of a remarkable thing. So we enhanced what we call our Ifa Insider, which is kind of the go-to source for anything that's happening within the association's umbrella on a weekly basis. Events, programs, cool things that our members are doing. When we get back to the office next week, Dan and I will write a blog post about this event, hopefully have some photos and talk about it. Push that out through a digital channel. Stuff that isn't rocket science, but the association wasn't doing because, again, it's difficult for associations to sometimes change. Our open rates for our Insider are very good, over 17%, typically on average a month, to our full membership, which includes 1,200 franchise brands and many people within each brand, tens of thousands of franchisees, and over 650 supplier members, many of you which are in this room. So there's a lot of audiences as well that IFA is working to keep abreast of different things. Different companies have different objectives about why they join IFA. Although at the end of the day, everybody's linked with this common thread of protecting, promoting, and enhancing franchising so that you guys can do better business. The other point I'd mention is that new concepts in franchising are increasingly on the cutting edge of technology. And if they're not, they're likely going to have difficulty getting off the ground to begin with. So all this is to say that IFA is making it a key priority to increase our interconnectivity in order to better serve existing members, obtain new members, and increase our engagement and our impact on important issues in the industry. So let me just give a few examples of things that we've done to date, and then Dan's going to talk about some of the things coming down the pike. In 2010, we relaunched franchise.org, which is IFA's website. The goal of the redesign was to increase visitor engagement, period. I'm happy to report that the redesign was a huge success, not only visually, as you'll see with what the site used to look like. But even more importantly, the site now does functionally for the 90% of visitors that come to our site. These are people thinking about getting into franchising. So people that we need to make a positive impression on about franchising, provide them trusted, reliable information, and quickly funnel them into the information area that they want to be in. And this is a screenshot from yesterday. Now, the other 10% is IFA's membership and media, government, other stakeholders that are seeking out information on franchising. So just to give you a bit of context of where we were, the old franchise.org, an average number of pages visited per visit was just under 4. The average time on the site was about 3 minutes, and this is, I think, the really key point. The bounce rate previously was 55%. That means people were coming to the site, generally, not finding what they were looking for, and getting out. The new .org, the average pages is almost 10. The average time on the site is over 5 minutes, and the bounce rate has dropped dramatically down to about 7%. So what's this tell us? People are spending a lot more time on the site, consuming a heck of a lot more info, and generally people coming to the site are able to find the information they're looking for, hence the low bounce rate. But more importantly, I think, is that they're finding the information they need about franchising, and in theory becoming better informed franchise consumers when they get serious about making that decision and knocking on your doors about buying a franchise or making an investment. The other thing that we're working on is the next steps. I talked about the opportunity seekers, the 90% of the visitors, but what about our existing members? We've been able to improve the experience for the brunt of our visitors, but what I'd like to do is take a few minutes and kind of poll the room a little bit with regards to what could the IFA be offering you on our site? What could we be doing better than we're doing now? And as we think about where we're going in the future, we'll take serious consideration of these types of these opportunities for our members, which, based on the list Deb provided me, we have a lot here. So I'd love if we could grab the mic to kind of get folks to give me a little bit of feedback. Oh.
Okay, so we just need the.
Can we do just we can raise hands, or we can sort of. Great.
There's a ton of content on the site, but I find it almost impossible to find what I want. Too many click-throughs. You might want to just organize it better for the different constituencies. So as a franchisor, I'm interested in what are people saying for professional developments relative to franchisor. So like the Wednesday Wise seminars, things like that. You've got to, I think it's 4 or 5 clicks if you can find it. And just maybe like creating separate domains or separate sites or something for the different constituencies to make it easier to navigate would be very helpful.
Definitely. And I think that we've been, you can fall into the trap of doing too much email marketing and not recognizing that you may get that email and you're busy running your business. You're not going to take an action on that email to go immediately register. But you're going to make a little tickler that says, I know that I want to participate in this webinar. Go back to the site and just like you said, you're having trouble, finding that, action. And it is a challenge, given our multiple audiences, hundreds of different programs happening. It's a challenge, but I appreciate the feedback.
I think just the fact that you guys are here, you and it's
Dan.
This fact that you guys are here at this type of event and participating in these kind of things and investing in these types of relationships, where I view this as kind of the core of the folks in social media and franchising. As there's a very powerful tribe here that I think we have, and you guys are part of that. And if you could take some feedback back to the office there, the organization, I think we would just say, that we are appreciative of your investment in this particular event, and so, and thank you for your support. And you can just pass that along to them.
Great. Thank you, BJ. We are here as much to listen to what you guys are doing, and then I think become more of a rapid reactor to that. In addition to becoming, an even greater vehicle for you guys to disseminate, different stories, different success stories, different challenges you've had, not just in social and tech and digital, but, across the board.
Yeah, I have something to share.
Yeah.
I know that, Matt, you do a lot of the tweeting for Franchising 411 yourself. And then you also have assistants that help you at events, because I know at IFA, during my session, it was being tweeted by Franchising 411, but I know it wasn't you. But personally, I love it that you are the face and the voice behind a lot of those tweets.
Yeah, I think it's important. That's absolutely right. I think it is important to provide a face with, particularly an association, and our association is made up, while it's businesses, it's predominantly people-driven. We made the decision when I came on board to do that and, be real about who you are. And I think that, a lot of brands do the same thing. Clearly doing Twitter or social for an association is different than doing it for, Coca-Cola or Valpak. But you got to do it. You have to be there. And I think that that's something that we realize, just take the plunge, take some of the lumps that come along with it. And there really haven't been any, other than me, I'm perpetually never satisfied. So, I'd love to have, all 825,000 franchise establishments following us on Twitter and, communicating with one voice, or all 18 million workers that our industry supports. That's the goal. That we want to be the preeminent voice for franchising in the world. And we are with our content, but we have things that we need to do to present that more effectively, and we're working to address those.
Other questions? No? Okay.
Great.
I'll hold the mic.
Thanks.
There are.
So going into the future, our members are demanding to go online and like, I'm sorry, what was your name? Joe. Like Joe said, register for events online, check their CFE credits online, register for meetings, participate in forum discussions, send a letter to their members of Congress, through the IFA because you're concerned about something that's impacting your business. So this means that our technology and our infrastructure need to be fully integrated in real time. And like I alluded to before, the danger, if they're not, is that associations will become less relevant, and the tools exist for other groups that represent franchising to, take our place in that space. So just to give you a picture of some of the other challenges that we have today, I'm not going to go into this too much detail, but as you can see, these are the various IFA web platforms and member engagement opportunities. And as you can see, not all of them fully are integrated. For instance, just to give you one example, our email marketing platform doesn't directly interact with our member database, meaning that in order to update a new member contact, you need to export an email list to ensure that that new member receives the appropriate communications and marketing from the IFA. Further, our social networks, as you can see down there in the bottom kind of middle left, they're often an island. We envision a day where our member database has all of our members' social networks built into the system so that we can be interacting in real time within our database to communicate, whether it's on email, whether it's to answer a question you have, or whether it's to push out something on Twitter or on Facebook that we'd love you guys to share with your franchisees or with other constituencies. So with that, I want to turn it over to Dan for a couple minutes, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the building blocks that we have today to build the IFA that we think you guys will all see in the future. And one of the reasons why we hired Dan, because he's done some of this in a previous job at another trade association.
Thanks, Matt.
There you go.
So as Matt said, I am Dan Gibson, and fairly new to IFA. Actually, my first week at IFA was at the annual convention. So talk about a nice introduction, everyone, right? I'm finishing up the negotiations with my boss, Elisa Harrison, and she's going, well, Dan, when do you think you'll be able to start? And I said, well, I want to kind of take a break after AGA, relax for a little bit, maybe start middle of February. And she goes, how about we talk about that date? So I came on board, and like I said, I came in the office Monday, and on Tuesday I flew down to Orlando for our annual convention, and it was great to have a chance to get to meet all the people like you. And I was very happy to see one of the first things there was a huge board with the Twitter stream from the whole convention just flowing right down through there. And I said, yeah, this is a good place to be. A little bit more background to me is that I have been in marketing and communications my entire career. I've done it at some places you might have heard of, United Rentals, the little small equipment rental place, the IEEE Computer Society, and most recently, as Matt was saying, at the American Gas Association. When I started there, quick tangent, when I started at the United Rentals, they were actually a different company. They were called Rental Tools and Equipment. And it was run by one kind of little old man. He was in his 70s, Mr. Dorn. And it was a long time ago. I won't say exactly how long since we're being recorded. But it was the mid-'90s, so websites were still kind of new. And he said, young man, I've brought you in here to build this company's first website because it's imperative that we develop one. I said, okay, no problem. So he said, I want you to write me a memo and copy our CFO so that we can give you all the resources that you need. I said, okay, that's great. So I write my memo, send it off, go home for the day. I feel like I've done a good day's work. So I come in the next day, and my boss, Dave, is waiting there, and he goes, hey, Dan, Bruce wants to see you. Bruce is our CFO. I said, oh, yeah, we're going to go meet with him. He goes, no, you can go alone. I said, okay, is everything all right? He goes, you should go see him now. So I walk down to Bruce's office, and he's in there with our Chief Information Officer, Terry. And I come and I say, hey, Bruce, hey, Terry, how you doing? And he goes, sit down. And so I sit down, and he begins to tell me how I am worthless, how it's completely idiotic to have a website for a rental equipment company, how if it was up to him, he'd get rid of me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm kind of sitting there, and I'm wondering how quickly I can redo my resume and get it out because I've got a wife at home that's pregnant with our first child. And about that time, Mr. Dorn comes, knocks on the door, and he, of course, come in. And he comes in and he goes, "Gentlemen, I can see you're doing important work here, so I don't want to interrupt you. But I just wanted to ask you both to give this young man whatever he needs to create this website because it's imperative for our company's survival. Can you both give me your word on that?" And they said, "Yes, Mr. Dorn, of course." And he leaves, and for about 10 seconds, there's absolute silence. Now, I don't know if you remember from when you were in school when the teacher would say, "Well, let's see how long 10 seconds is. Let's look up there." 10 seconds is a long time. And so at the end of the 10 seconds, Bruce looks at me and goes, "Get out." And so I left. I think I requested 15 grand. We got that, and we put up our first website. It was pretty much all hosting costs at that point because it was a different time then. About 3 months after that, the University of Virginia had a kitchen fire. And they were online, found that website, followed the whatever information we left there to get in touch with the contact, contacted our sales department. It ended up being $1 million rental. I never had to ask for any budget again. They just gave me whatever I needed. And the reason that applies today is because, towards the late 90s, 2000s, I was, people had come to the realization that websites were an imperative communications tool, like Mr. Dorn said. I said, gosh, I'm glad I'll never have to have those types of conversations again. And so about 4 years ago, the American Gas Association, a trade association for the utilities of natural gas, says, "Dan, we've got a website. We want you to come in and we want you to build our digital presence." I said, "Okay." And I'm in my first meeting, and they start going, "This stuff is worthless. Why are we doing this? I don't even know why we have you doing here." I was like, "Oh my God, is it 1995 again?" And so the point is, how it relates to today is that I went into AGA, was able to kind of help them along into where you guys are now, to help them understand the importance of what they're doing, the importance of engaging, the importance of those conversations, and be able to ramp up their whole digital world, which led me to coming to IFA, and they're much further along, doing a really good job than AGA, so I'm glad to be here. As you can see, there's been a steady increase in Twitter followers, and we're gonna continue to build those. As I've gone through this day, I've been very pleased to hear all the different conversation from the other people that have spoken today. Just the things that you really need to hear. If you're going to be doing this, have a clear plan with specific goals. I even heard BJ talk about this is the tribe to do it, to lead franchising down the social web, and he's right. When you have those types of groups, it's very powerful. A couple of the other things I heard that you should keep in mind are, listen. When you're out there, I've heard a few people say, when you're out there, make sure that you're listening to what your audience is saying, because these are all different channels. And as you use them, make sure that you're tailoring your message for the appropriate channel in the appropriate way, because it's not just all shotgunning out. It's about being able to take that message and tailor it to your audience, put it through the right platform so that you can have that real conversation, that engagement. So for instance, with Twitter, where we feel we're being very effective is communicating with the media. I mean, Matt and the staff at IFA have just done a great job in being able to reach out and have a real influence on journalists. The LinkedIn, our LinkedIn group here is so strong. 8,000 members we're creeping up on. And this is an area where you guys are it's kind of a trusted environment, right? It's your professional connections. It's a place where you can come on and have conversations about the things that are going on in your business. That's really the value of LinkedIn. And look at the strong community that we're building there. Creeping on 8,000 already, and it's going to get better. Did we skip up? So a couple of the other things you should be looking for are we recently made some enhancements to our blog, ifafranblog.com. And what we're doing there is we're trying to make that kind of our social hub where we can pull in all these different communities and all these different conversations that are happening into a centralized place and be able to go back out in the same focus. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. I was going to turn it over to Matt to talk about Franchise Congress, but before I do that, do you guys have any other questions about kind of where IFA wants to go in this social digital world? Good.
Thanks, Dan. Just a quick word about Franchise Congress. It's IFA's community of grassroots advocates, and it was built starting in 2008, and it was originally intended to develop a what they call grass tops in Washington speak, relationship with every member of Congress and every senator in all congressional districts across the country. And it's largely achieved that goal. We have 357 Franchise Congress advocates that have a existing relationship with their member of Congress, and that's a huge value add to the association's core mission, which is to advocate on behalf of this industry. Going forward, we're going to be broadening what Franchise Congress is, and we want your guys' help to do that. We need your guys' help to do that. Your franchisees, suppliers, franchisors, all of these people that I spoke to earlier with the common thread linking through the franchise industry to communicate on issues of importance, we'll be coming to you guys. So look for more of that, and I do think that there are some really smart people in this room that could give us some guidance on how do we build this community digitally. There are, obviously looking at President Obama's campaign and where the two campaigns are this year, it's so easy to do now. And so we're going to be putting a big focus on broadening IFA's grassroots army in the coming years. So that's kind of it. The one other thing, let me just close by saying, at the convention in February, we had both Facebook and Google speak, and it was, as the technology summits continue to be, they're standing room only, and nobody's going to the finance sessions, nobody's going there. Everybody wants to be in the technology summit. One thing that's been developed is a direct channel for our members who have questions about how to incorporate Facebook in terms of managing that parent-child relationship and how to incorporate Google Places. We have a direct line of communication open to the right people that are focused on those streams at Facebook and Google. So I encourage you guys to reach out to Jason Yusko at IFA or visit franchise.org/socialtech. And I know for a fact that at least 50 companies are working directly with Facebook today. And I think 10 to 12 are working directly with Google. That relationship is broadening. I don't know, BJ, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, sorry. To your point there about with the annual convention, with the technology session, the summit, as those continue to grow and every year have standing room only, what is your mechanism, or what is the organization's mechanism for measuring that and then acting on those results to where, hey, every year we're seeing this grow and we need to continue to expand it, and so every year it seems like we're going into the room and it's just packed. How do we communicate to them that, hey, this is something that's growing, not going away, and we need to...
Yeah, I think that what's happened is the numbers speak for themselves, and I think there is a growing desire to, broaden, expand, break out. Something bigger will happen with respect to tech.
So they are recognizing that?
We definitely are recognizing that. There was a strong move made to get Sheryl Sandberg to speak at the convention this year, and for scheduling purposes, it wasn't able to happen, but that would have clearly been a way to move, the tech focus into a more, general session, 3,000-4,000 people there, asking questions, engaging with, one of the leaders in digital communications at Facebook.
Yeah, and just one other item, if you want to bring back to them, having Guy Kawasaki close this year was just, he dropped a bomb.
Yeah, he was a home run.
And so that was awesome, and you could bring that feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in our feedback, Guy Kawasaki, far and away had better ratings than Bill O'Reilly. So, I think that that's recognized, and you'll see more changes, more enhancements on the tech focus going forward, not only at the convention, but in other venues.
Yeah, well, Guy had such personality. He's so social. He engaged the whole audience.
He's the reason why I didn't bring that many slides.
So I have a question actually for the audience.
Okay.
Matt and I had this conversation last night over a couple of Sweetwater 420s, and I told him it was an audience of one, so I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks. Just show of hands, how many people read what the IFA sends via either email, social networks? Okay. How many people think you're getting not enough? How many people think you're getting too much? All right. There's 2 of us, 3 of us. Come on, come on. He wants to hear it.
No, I do. I do want to hear
He wants
good
to hear
feedback. You know, and I'd be curious, is the too much on the marketing side, or is it too much on the, you know, communications, you know, side?
It's necessarily too much. It borderlines too much for me personally, but I'm easily distracted because I don't take the of what everyone else thinks. You know, when a headline pops up on my you know, down on the bottom of my Outlook and it sounds like something interesting, I completely derail from what I'm doing and go and read what you send, which is great.
I'm the same way.
But yeah, but it does happen with some frequency. I guess the fact that I have a folder allocated for the ones that I get from IFA and I have it automatically go there is a sign that I want to get to it when I want to get to it.
And I think that's reflective in some of the numbers in the email marketing metrics that we check. It's actually pretty steady in terms of the open rate on a lot of our emails. You know, if you look over a course of a week, you know, it's not necessarily, everybody doesn't necessarily open our emails right away, but they do have decent open rates. So I think a lot of people are probably doing, you know, similar things, have a similar system set up for those types of things. You know they want to get to it, but it's not impacting your business, you know, at that moment. So there's no urgency on your part, and that's what we should expect as a trade group.
Oh, well, I like the summaries, and I don't probably open up each link or anything like that, but I review it really quickly, and I can also see how video can be incorporated also, just maybe interviewing members or seeing what they're doing and sharing with a community that way.
Great, yeah, I love video. It's a great way to get our message out. We have, you know, every franchisee, every franchisor is a story. You know, it's a small business story, and I think that the IFA is somebody that can and should be telling that. We were.
You know, and I was thinking too, how many members do we have within the organization?
We've got about 1,200 franchisor members, 1,200 brands,
1,200 brands.
Tens of thousands of franchisees
Right.
that are members either through full system membership or on their own. And then I think about 650, 675 on the supplier side.
Is there a way, and I don't know, you don't have to answer this now, but is there a way, you know, we love all the franchisors and franchiseors that are here, franchisees, we love to know who our peers are. Is there a way that IFA can help promote those new members? You know, when we get new members, is there a notification out, whether it's a video or, you know, welcome this new member, because I'll probably be one of the first and several others will be too, to say, great, you know,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
it's,
blah
you know what,
brand
it's
is
a
now a
great
member.
idea,
I'd love
and
to welcome them.
It's a great idea, and we've done it for years on the back page of our magazine, and you know, I would say that that's not enough
It's
in
print.
today's world.
So,
That's
I'm just
the
thinking
back
about the
page of a
digital-
magazine, right?
yeah.
So, you know, hey, I'd love to work with Dan and build out a way for each new member to submit a video to introduce themselves to the community.
Right, because what we could do
when
is
they-
help
when they join.
promote their local community, their own Facebook page, their own LinkedIn,
Right.
or their Twitter account, so that we can make them more public
That's a great
to
idea.
us, our members, and then their communities as well. Because many of us know Nothing Bundt Cakes because they have wonderful bundt cakes, and we know Debbie, and now we know Tisha. But, you know, they've got Facebook, and soon they'll have online ordering. Hint, hint, hint. Well, shipping. Yes, so.
Dessert?
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a question. I don't know if it's you or Dan that maybe can answer this, but I'm wondering what IFA's thoughts or maybe plans are as far as how franchisors can use social media to promote franchising, sell franchises, and if there's any content that IFA can provide or is providing that we don't know about or is planning on providing. Just kind of thoughts on how social media can be used to sell franchises.
Sure. I mean, I think that we have the content in terms of, you know, what's the economic impact of franchising. I think you guys sharing that content with the same message. You know, we put out forecasts each year that, and actually each quarter now, that will demonstrate, you know, what's the business environment like for franchising. You know, so for you all to take that content from the IFA as a, you know, the most trusted source for information about franchising and use it as part of your franchise development efforts, both online and in the field, I think that lends itself to incredible credibility for you all. And that's something, if you're not getting, you know, this economic information, you know, it's probably, you know, the only source of information about franchising and how it's impacting the economy and how, you know, the industry will grow or not grow in terms of jobs, new establishments, and output on a quarterly basis. So, you know, please let me know if you're not receiving that information. We want that to be in your guys' hands and let you guys use that as a tool across all of your channels. I would say just on the, more specifically on the social side, you know, IFA, you know, we don't necessarily have a expert on, you know, how to sell franchising in social. What we try to do are bring the experts together through our various conferences, webinars, you know, suppliers that are doing great things, franchisors that are doing great things, and speak and, you know, write about it through our various platforms. And it's increasingly an area that we're pitched all the time to have experts come to us to speak to the industry. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, or anybody's interested in doing, you know, please see us, please talk to, you know, the folks in our membership department about that.
I just have a quick question. He
Yes.
asked about social. It's along those lines. You asked earlier if we don't feel like we're getting enough or too much. I feel like it's a great, like, middle line, how much content you're putting out, but I kind of wish it was more social in the sense I saw more updates on Facebook or Twitter, so it's so easy to share them on my business page and across, you know, the network with my clients and stuff. Just because I know I'm not like every audience, but I don't want to read it in the newspaper, in the newsletter, click, go to the website, find the share button, click the share button, copy and paste, put it in my third-party application, you know, so it's just kind of easy to click that share button. So that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well, thanks. No? Okay. Well, thanks again, Deb, for having Dan and I here today. We do really appreciate it. Thank you guys who are IFA members, whether on the supplier or the franchisor side. And we'll be around for the rest of the afternoon if you have other questions.
And I'll ditto what BJ said earlier. It does mean a lot to have you guys here to be part of this, online and physically here. So what we're going to do now is go next door for lunch. What they should have done is set up box lunches, and there should be labels